The Boston Celtics have honestly been a very interesting team to follow this year, and if you would have told me that this team would have a record of 20-20 at the time I'm making this video, there is no way I would have believed it. Yet, here we are. But at this point, it is clear that Jayson, Tatum, and Jalen Brown just aren't enough to get this team a win at the highest level. And because of this, there have been so many trade talks for the Celtics, it's been hard for even me to keep track of everyone that has been in the rumors. But at this point in time, I believe there is only one good fit for the Celtics team, and today we will be discussing exactly why the Celtics should either make this one move or save their trade exception for this offseason. But before we get into today's video, let me just say if you end up enjoying the content, it would be absolutely clutch if you hit that like button below and subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew, because it really does help the channel in a big way. We are out here posting a banger video every other day at 5 p.m. Central, and I can guarantee you will not want to miss any of my videos if you enjoy this one. But with that being said, let's just take a deep dive into what we've been seeing out of this Celtics team lately and why I believe there is only one move this team should make at the time of the deadline. Like I said, it's honestly crazy to me that the Celtics are sitting at a record of 20-20 at the time I'm making this video. I mean, if you want to talk about a team that is practically guaranteed to get a top 5 seed in the playoffs over the past few years and just throughout history of the NBA in general, it's the Boston Celtics. But this year, well, it's a different story. Despite having 2 all-stars on their team in Tatum and Brown, along with great players with star potential in Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart, this team has been struggling this year to say the least. Now, I know that Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart have been dealing with injuries throughout the season, but when you have 2 of the best players on the court still, there is no reason that your team shouldn't be winning games. I mean, just look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets. I know James Harden is on a whole nother level compared to anyone on the Celtics, but this man is going out there and getting this Nets team some W's without Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. I've been tuning into as many Celtics games as I can, like all the other teams, and there have definitely been some issues I've noticed that only one player on the market can fix for this team, and would actually be worth the cost they're going for. I'm not gonna lie, the Celtics are playing very solid basketball, but the few things that this team is struggling with is what is making them so bad, and honestly, worrying myself and other NBA fans as we speak. And these issues are on both sides of the ball, so with that being said, let's just dive into what these issues are and the trade that could fix them for this team and make the Celtics championship contenders once again. Even though people have been saying that a majority of the Celtics issues have been from their offense, I believe that a lot of it has been on the defensive side of the ball despite having great defenders on their team. Let me make this clear, the Celtics can be one of the best defensive teams in the league if they want to be. What I mean by that is that the Celtics defense has just been inconsistent. I've seen so many times when the Celtics apply pressure to the ball and look amazing on the defensive side, but there have also been many times where they just give other teams space and they take advantage, to say the least. We just saw this when the Celtics squad faced off against the Jazz. The Celtics came into the game with great defensive mindset and were applying constant pressure, but as the game started getting into the second quarter, they began to stop putting that pressure on the Jazz more and more, which led to them taking yet another L. Not only that, but the Celtics have also had major issues when it comes to switching on defense. There have been so many plays in the past few games for the Celtics where opposing teams either get wide open threes or even layups because this team hasn't been able to switch on the defensive side of the ball efficiently. But changing gears to the offensive side of the ball, the Celtics have actually been looking pretty good despite their record. Jayson, Tatum, and Jalen Brown have been playing next level basketball and have been scoring a majority of the points for the C's night in and night out. Kemba Walker has been inconsistent to say the least, but he has definitely started to look more and more like the Hornets version of himself the past couple weeks. But even though the Stars of Boston have been balling on the offensive side of the ball, it still hasn't been enough scoring power to get this team wins. So the Celtics need someone who can be a second or third option on offense and someone who can elevate their defense and take this team to the next level as a whole. Does that description sound like anyone you recognize? Because if you didn't guess by now, the only player I believe the Boston Celtics should make a move for right now if they want to contend this year is Jerami Grant of the Detroit Pistons. Grant is the perfect fit for many teams looking to make a trade, but honestly, I think he would fit best for the Celtics team. Don't get me wrong, there are many players on the market like Harrison Barnes, Nikola Vucevic, or even Kristaps Porzingis, but the fact is, these players all have their own issues that make them a much worse option compared to Jerami Grant. I mean, guys like Barnes are good, but they don't have what it takes to make this team a championship contender unless they are literally the perfect fit. And as far as Porzingis, Vucevic, or any other stars, well, teams would be asking way too much in return because there are so few talented players on the trade block right now. At minimum, for those guys I just mentioned, the Celtics would have to give up one of their young talents, a boatload of picks, and at least Kemba Walker. But I believe that Jerami Grant is the perfect player between these two categories. Not a star in the league yet, but has the ability to allow the Celtics to win at the highest level. Jerami Grant will bring some of the best defense in the league for his position and instantly better the issue of switching that I talked about earlier. Grant would have the ability to guard the opposing team's best players, which would allow Tatum and Brown to produce even more on the offensive side of the ball, which would elevate the Celtics team even more. Not to mention that along with his defense, Jerami Grant can be a great leading scorer on a team if needed, being that he averages nearly 24 points a game this year on a amazing shooting percentages. This would give the Celtics the star power they need on both sides of the ball to make them contenders for at least the next few years. All they have to do is build around the big three and they would be another team who has a chance at a ring. But there has been one issue that has led many to believe that the Celtics might not make a deal before the deadline. The fact that the Pistons might want too much for Grant than the Celtics are willing to give. It's no secret that there are very few players on the trade market right now who have the talent level that Grant does, which definitely will drive up the price on him to say the least. I mean, that's just how supply and demand works. There are so many teams looking to get better with a player like Grant, but there are very few players like him available, so his price will be driven up a lot potentially. Overall though, if the Celtics could snag Jerami Grant for some young talent and 3 or less first round picks, I believe this is the move for the Celtics to make if they want to try and win big right now. The package that I believe the Celtics should offer to the Pistons and more than likely will accept is if the C's trade away Payton, Pritchard, Tristan Thompson, and 2 to 3 first round picks in exchange for Jerami Grant. I know this is a lot to give up, and honestly I would have to think about this trade a bit before pulling the trigger, but what it comes down to is if the Celtics want to win now or wait on their young talent to develop and then make a push in a couple of years. It's no secret that the Celtics have been on win now mode ever since they got Jayson Tatum, and they've been doing a good job of being consistent in making the playoffs, but they have yet to win at the highest level and get to the NBA Finals with Tatum and Brown. I feel like there are honestly a lot of teams in the situation of the Celtics right now, that being that they are just one piece away from potentially making a finals push they've been looking to do for so long, but they would also have to sacrifice a lot of their future and young talent with potential to make it happen. I mean, just look at teams like the Warriors and Heat, teams that want to win now but are torn because their young talent has so much potential, and I think that the Celtics are honestly in the same boat. Payton Pritchard and Robert Williams have shown flashes that they can be key pieces for this team in the future, they just need more time, which unfortunately may not be something that the Celtics are willing to wait for. This is a big decision the Celtics have to make. Do they invest in their young talent and be patient, or do they just make a big trade for Grant and push for a championship right now? Because let me just say that this team will not be able to win at the highest level this year with the team they have at the moment, and the stats don't lie. At the time of making this video, the Celtics are currently 0-8 against the top 5 best teams in the NBA today, which just shows the harsh truth that the Celtics don't have what it takes to win right now. But they are so close that maybe, just maybe, they will make a move for Grant or even someone else if his asking price is too high. Don't get that stat twisted, because there are a good amount of those games the Celtics were actually very close to winning, which is what has led me to believe that this team will more than likely make a move for Grant before the deadline. This team is literally so close to winning at the highest level, it is insane. They just need that one more piece. Not only that, but I believe the Celtics have already made their decision as well. They are just trying to get the deal done. I mean, just think about it. If the Celtics were trying to develop their young talent and young guys this year to make a championship push in the future years, they would not be giving Jeff Teague more playing time than Payton Pritchard, or giving Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice more minutes than Robert Williams. There is no doubt in my mind at this point that the decision for the future of the Celtics in fact has already been made. All they are doing at this point is trying to get a deal done that can get them the third starter they need to make a deep playoffs push this year and maybe even try and go to the finals. But here's where things get very interesting, because it was recently reported that the Celtics have offered, quote, multiple first round picks for Jerami Grant, and obviously a deal hasn't been done yet, which indicated that the Celtics are either trying to hold on to someone like Pritchard or the Pistons' asking price for Grant is just that high. This is where the real Celtics decision comes in, because it has also been reported that they are desperate to get Grant before the trade deadline. So will we end up seeing this team give up their whole future for someone who isn't even a superstar yet? Hard to say, but it will be very interesting to see what this team ends up doing, to say the least. At this point, it would be hard not to be nervous as a Celtics fan, because this team is literally offering a majority of their future for players who are overpriced at the moment and will go down in price once again after the season is over. But that's for a whole nother video itself. I want to hear from you guys down below. Who do you think the Celtics should try and snag before the deadline? Or do you think they should develop their young talent and then go from there? Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, I would highly recommend liking this video as well as subscribing if you're new and joining the Woods crew, because let me just say we have a bunch of banger videos coming out this week and you will not want to miss a single one of them. I don't usually plug my IG, but if you're still tuning in, go check it out at Woods Hoops. It's always linked below. Regardless, I really appreciate all you guys still tuning in. Catch you all on the next one. Woods out.